Hey Seth, how are you?
Doing good. How are you doing, Titus?
I'm well, thanks. I'm well.
So I'm Seth with the Corn to Seth. It's a pleasure to meet you. First question I have for you here, and also congrats on the film.
Thank
Uh,
you.
your character in this film was so nuanced. One minute he seemed like a loving father and is so soft spoken, the next he isn't. So how difficult do you find it to find that perfect balance in a role like this, where if you do too much, it kind of shows your character's true intentions?
Yeah, there had to be it was a lot of kind of, conscious fine tuning of the character. And so because there's not a ton of exposition about what's going on, um, I felt that it was very important for that character to be very still and not overly demonstrative with his affection. I think, look, the truth of the matter is that it's the time period and the way that people parented their children, um, and Mina really occupies that space of being nurturing. He wants them to be educated and to be smart, and then you throw into the equation, sort of prepare them for what he anticipates is coming, which is the evil. And his prime directive is to rid Earth of this evil. And yet, the it's less of a horror film and more of a psychological thriller. And it's also just visually, it's it's a different kind of storytelling because it's contradictory in its visual nature. You have this, beautiful bucolic setting, but the interior of this house, which is supposed to be the keep, right, and is where there's a sense of malevolence inside. So that's kind of, you know that's Natasha Kermani, all that, and the cinematographer creating this world that we just kind of got to live and navigate in, and one marvelous cast of actors that I got to work with.
And I know you pointed out kind of like that time period was different. So was there anybody you tried to, kind of like mimic your portrayal of Van Helsing off of, or was there some type of inspiration that you got to kind of fit in with that time period?
Well, I thought of, um, there are a lot of different people that I sort
Hmm.
of drew from, but there's I've spent a lot of time in in Holland, in the Netherlands, and so I what I started to do was really delve into the study of Stoicism, because I felt like that was sort of essential to who this character was, and that was in accordance with the idea of stillness. So I thought of, you know my experiences as a kid and going with my grandfather to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and seeing the sort of lack of affect and things of the Pennsylvania Dutch, right, the Amish, and just cherry picking stuff here and there, and so that really was kind of what I leaned into.
Your portrayal was fantastic, and
Well,
I
thank
know
you.
obviously this is kind of a spoiler, and I won't post this till afterwards, but after the movie's out, so that ending was really crazy, and I know that you said, now do you understand what I've taught you to your son? Do you think that also was kind of like his realization that he was actually the monster in the story for your character?
To a certain degree, yeah. I think, and I was very careful with that line because I didn't want to hit it too hard on the
Hmm.
nose. I think, and it was important for it to be ambivalent without being ambivalent,
Yeah.
right? Or as Bruce Lee would say, it's the art of fighting without fighting, right? And yet, everything that he's done, um, uh, it'll be interesting to see. I think people will have a lot of different takeaways with this film. So I'm very proud of this film, and proud to have been a part of it. I'm very excited for it to come out and see how people respond. And uh, yourself and some of the other journalists that I've been speaking to, so far we're getting good report cards. So
Yeah.
I'm very, very happy that the film is affecting people in a different way, of not just like, oh Jesus, I threw my popcorn. There were so many jump scares, because it's not that kind of a film.
No.
Um, and I appreciate it that there are still, because I'm a horror fanatic. I will watch good, bad, and indifferent horror, because I love the genre. But this to me is it's operating at a different level, and it has a different form and function than that which we're accustomed to. So
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
excited for it.
you did fantastic. Congrats on the role, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it. You take good care, man.
Of
Thanks
course.
again.
Bye. Hey, Joe, again, how are you doing?
It's great talking to you.
Great talking to you too. Congrats on the film and the book and all of this.
All right, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Of course, the first question I had for you here is, in the story, Abraham kind of feels more like Dracula to me in a way, because everyone he kind of was around was kind of under his spell, and he even spoke like him in conversation with Arthur, when he spoke down to him. So how did you kind of come up with this idea on this character who's always been the hero in the story?
Yeah, yeah, um, well, my starting point was I was thinking, what would it be like to be his son?
Hmm.
How would you view him? We're talking about a man who spends his Friday nights crawling around cemeteries, and he'll rip open a coffin and find the young lady at rest inside and slam a stake through her heart, then chop off her head and jam a bulb of garlic in her screaming nose. And that's his idea of a fun Friday night.
Yep.
And we know from Dracula that he's the good guy. We know because we were told vampires are evil and they feed off us, and they're just, these insidious evil things that need to be destroyed. We know that because Van Helsing told us so.
Hmm.
But when you think about it, the way he spends his Friday night isn't that different from the way Ted Bundy spent his Friday nights, and his say so, his they're bad, trust me, is a little bit chilling, and so I kind of think I wanted to explore that, and ultimately in the story, and even more so in the film, it is a tale about how people who have done hideous things justify themselves, their rationalizations, their explanations, and how does a person like that explain himself to the people who are closest to him in the world, such as his children?
Was there a moment when watching this film, for the first time, that was pulled straight from the book that you actually like better seeing it first than like what you wrote in the story?
He is very faithful to the short story. So there's a lot of moments where I'm like, oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Um, but I think especially I liked when we've just seen Van Helsing do something hideous.
Mm-hmm.
And then he turns to his son Max and says, look what you made me do. And I just found that so utterly chilling. Again, we go back to this idea of rationalizing. Someone's covered in blood and says, look what you made me do. That's a bad guy right there. That's like the
Mm-hmm.
classic cop out of every villain ever. This isn't on me. It's on you. You made me do it. So I thought I love that.
I really like that too. And kind of to your point, at the end of the film, obviously, the son kind of starts this new journey, and it seems like he's kind of left the trauma and stuff behind him. But do you think, there's more room to explore that in like another story, or do you think that trauma is going to continue on with him, or do you think?
Maybe if you were going to do another Van Helsing story
Hmm.
with Titus,
Yep.
maybe you'd go back instead of forward. And we'd find out that Van Helsing is Jack the Ripper.
That would be the twist of the century.
Wouldn't that smoke?
That would be amazing. Can we please
He's
make that?
saucy Jack.
So that brings me into my next question here. So we've gotten a lot of Joe Hill film adaptations as of late. Is there one that you would like to see adapted, or is there one that your father wrote that you would like to try and write a screenplay for and adapt yourself?
Okay, there's a bunch of questions there. I know we don't have a ton of time, so I'm going
Yes.
to try to unpack them quickly.
Sorry.
Of all the things that I've done that I'd most like to see adapt, I've got a new novel coming out in October called King Sorrow.
Mhm.
It's a beast. It's like 900 pages long. If you drop it on your foot, you'll break your foot. Massive, big. I was trying to do something on the scale of Ken Follett's Pillars of the Earth.
Oh wow.
It's a huge, massive entertainment. Um, I'd love to see that as a TV series. Whether it will ever happen, who knows? But I think that would be a really fun prestige because it's got like at the center of it, it's got this big dragon, and I want to see that. In the book, the dragon is like fighting F-16s and battle tanks and stuff like that. Like I want to see that on the screen. So there's that. Um, One thing that I think was really ripe for adaptation, it's not by my father. But Peter Straub's Ghost Story.
Hmm.
I think it would be great if someone wanted to take another whack at that because Peter, I love Peter. He's a really close family friend. He's a remarkable American supernatural writer. Writer of the supernatural and Ghost Story, which was adapted once. I don't think people were satisfied with the adaptation, and it's been a long time.
Hmm.
So that one is due for adaptation. It's about four old men telling ghost stories to each other. Secretly, Titus is too young to play one of them, but that's what you have a makeup department for. So use the makeup department to age him up a little bit. Natasha Kermani directs. I write. Let's go. Let's get it done. Put the word out. Whoever's got the rights can call my agent, and we're gonna make it happen and be awesome.
Please do. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was so awesome talking to you. I wish I had more time, honestly.
Seth, it was great talking to you. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you guys. Have a good one. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
Doing good. Congrats on the movie. I watched it last night and I loved it. So
Thank you. Thank you for
can't wait
watching.
to talk to you.
Mhm.
So, you worked with Joe Hill on this screenplay. So, was there anything that you learned from him as a writer that's going to help you kind of with future films with your writing?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, I think Joe has this like really uh um genuine enthusiasm for his characters and the
Hmm.
worlds that he's building, and he's just he brings a lot of joy to horror, which is so funny because his work is so dark.
Hmm.
But I think just meeting him and realizing how just kind of joyful and sweet and wonderful his attitude is really is a reminder of like we can come to this dark material, but come to it with as fans, like as
Hmm.
lovers of the material. And so coming to this project in particular and acknowledging our respect and our love for Bram Stoker's Dracula, I think was really important part of the process and something that I love about Joe and his work, for sure.
I won't post this till after the movie's out, but that ending I thought was fantastic. And, I really love that, having the son behead the father and, like his father taught him how to slay monsters. It felt also in a way, like Elsie saying, giving her the sigh or giving the son the sigh at the end kind of felt like a nod back to when she was like, we just pray for a better day the next day. Do
Yeah.
you, do you think she was hoping for the brothers, like the best for the brothers, or do you think she sees the same monster in Van Helsing that she saw, in the sun that night?
Yeah, I mean, she's sort of us, right? Like she's sort
Hmm.
of the outsider looking in on this crazy family, this really like messed up family. And I think, for from her perspective, of course, Max, like Abraham, sees
Hmm.
himself as the hero in the end who has slain the monster who is
Yeah.
threatening his loved ones. But of course, she has a different viewpoint, which is you're a monster too. You just cut a man's head off. And so it's that sort of classic, right, universal beware who you see as heroes and villains, and you just make sure you know whether or not you're the hero or the villain. Um, and I think that's the tragedy of the story, and that of course is part of the darkness of Joe's short, is that even though Max does push back against his father and does question his father's worldview and his mythology, in so many ways he's not able to escape his fate, right? To
Hmm.
to become in so many ways his father. So it's a bit of a open-ended end there.
I love that. And I know you're working on The Dreadful and you got Jon Snow and Sansa back together.
Yes.
So, is there anything you can tell us about that film? Because I'm so excited to see those two again.
Oh yeah, I mean, you should be excited. They're just wonderful together, and there is a magic every time I watch. We're in editorial right now, and every time I see the scene where they see each other again for the first time, there is, yeah, I'm a Thrones fan too, and
Hmm.
there is that little piece of you that sees them, and they're both so beautiful and grown up now, and they're very different than how we initially saw them. So it's just there is a bit of magic there for sure, and I'm just excited for people to experience it.
Last couple questions here is your segment, first of all, in VHS 85 was awesome. What was it like coming back to work with IFC and Shudder, and how did you know this was the perfect home for Abraham's Boys?
Oh, I love them. I really, really love these guys. I think they're very creative. They're true horror fans, which is not always the case in
Hmm.
Hollywood. Sometimes horror is just there to make money or whatever it is. And I think the team at IFC Shutter AMC are genuine fans of the form in all of its many, many, many forms. So it was just, it's a pleasure working with them, and I think they've just done a fantastic job. I love all the poster and all the stuff they've put together has just been so in keeping with the tone of the
Hmm.
film and not trying to misrepresent it or anything like that, because this is it's an interesting project, right? Like it's not just a straight vampire movie. It's got a lot of other stuff going on. So
It
I just
does.
knew that they would handle it with artistry and care.
They really are the best. What do
Mhm.
you hope people take away from your film?
Well, I
Uh,
hope that they go back and reread Dracula.
Hmm.
I hope that they go to their bookstore and get Joe's collection, and they get Dracula, and they have a nice weekend of revisiting the world. And I think also just this unfortunately universal evergreen idea that, question authority. Just because somebody comes to you with authority and saying that he has all the answers, and here's the monster, and here's the good guy, here's the bad guy, doesn't mean you have to accept that. And sometimes it's good to question who's the hero and who's the villain.
That's awesome. And last question I have for you. I use movies as a way to connect with people. I think it's a great way to bridge the gap and help somebody understand who you are as a person better. So, is there a movie that you always recommend to people to help you or help them understand who you are?
Oh my gosh. I guess people who want to know my sense of humor, I always say Phantom Thread. PTA's movie, The Phantom Thread, is like that is exactly my outlook on life. And I really relate to Daniel Woodcock. So
It is a fantastic movie.
yeah, I love that film so much. So yeah, Phantom Thread.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for all of your time today. Congrats on this movie, and I can't wait for everybody to see this thing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Also, nice to see you again.
Hey Seth, nice to see you.
Hey
How you
there.
doing?
Doing good. Hey, Brady.
Hey there.
Okay. First of all, I'm Seth with According to Seth. Congrats on the movie. You guys were both fantastic in it. The first question I wanted to ask you guys, it was one of my favorite moments from the film. So it was the tender moment of Mina singing with the kids, and your light, Jocelyn, kind of shined through all of that darkness, and your character's light shined through all that darkness. So I thought it was a beautiful moment. So when both of you are having a bad day or a tough time on set, what do each of you do to kind of bring that light back into your life?
Hmm. Well, I have to call out that song, which is so beautiful. It's called America, I Love You. It's this gorgeous song, like from the American Songbook. And it was really fun to learn that and sing that with Judah, which was one of my favorite moments on set as
Mhm.
well. But it's true, music really can pull you out of darkness. But I have to say, this set was so much fun. So many wonderful, funny people that, you can just really just step outside of the scene and just start cracking jokes with your castmates and the crew, and wonderful people. So there was never really a dark moment on set unless you were in character.
Yeah.
I mean, she nailed it. There was never a day where I came to set and didn't want to be there or did not have a fun day when we wrapped. Every day was always packed with something exciting that we were doing or slightly terrifying. So, and the cast and crew were amazing people. Like Jocelyn said,
Mhm.
they became good friends. A lot of the crew I still talk to. So, we really were blessed with such a great group that were so well skilled in our profession. So for that, I'm eternally grateful.
Listen, you both have been a part of, a film adaptation of Stephen King or Joe Hill. So, is there an adaptation that you both would like to be a part of next that hasn't been done yet, or one that you would hope to be a part of?
Well, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about Salem's Lot again. I mean, I know they have already done that a couple
Hmm.
times, but rewatching like, the 1979 Toby Hooper one, and then the more recent one, I love Salem's Lot. I was thinking about that a lot with this movie.
There's one movie and I'll hold my tongue because I don't know what I'm allowed to say about it because I was talking to Joe, but he does have another adaptation that he is in the works with that I talked to him about, and it's another fantastic story that he wrote. So if that turns into something fantastic, I've worked with Joe before. His mind is brilliant, and I would work for him until I'm 90. But whatever crosses my path, I will be there with open arms.
Jocelyn, listen, you're no stranger to horror here. You've done so many incredible films. So what was it about this script, especially that, immediately jumped out to you when you read the script, that you wanted to be a part of this?
I've always loved Dracula, and vampires have kind of always been my favorite of the monsters. They're, urbane, sophisticated, and, they can read minds, and they have so many cool powers. And then in particular on this, the chance to work with Natasha, who I've known for a few years and have always just respected as a filmmaker and trusted her vision. So to do something like this, where there were kind of more performance aspects that I got to stretch and do new things, like you really, especially on indie, want to work with someone who you trust their vision. And she's such a stand-up person, super smart, great communicator. And she had written a really great adaptation of Joe's story, which I love Joe's story. And then Natasha really built it out into something bigger. And I love the family dynamics and the period piece of it all, and to get to see these classic characters in a new setting. So all that was very enticing.
You just brought up that, you grew up, you love vampires and things like that. So for each of you, what was the first film that you saw that had vampires in it that kind of made you fall in love with this genre?
Mine was, I don't know which one was first that I saw, but it was either Lugosi's Dracula or Bram Stoker's. And I mean, I was a huge fan of Bram Stoker's. I mean, the very first scene you see, or one of the first scenes where Dracula has this insane suit of armor on, that was like one of my favorite shots from the movie. And Natasha and I were talking about, early development, making a suit for the movie jokingly. But that movie in particular, I'd say, brought Natasha and our visions to the movie very close together.
Oh, what the first one that I saw, but same, like so much respect for the OG Dracula with Bela Lugosi in 1931, like just a masterpiece of like formal filmmaking and so beautiful. And then Francis Ford Coppola's, I also remember seeing that when, I was a teenager, and that's like the campier, bigger version, the huge vision, and so many cool set pieces. And there's just so many. There's like 150, Dracula vampire movies, and so there's something for everyone. And there's so many modern ones I love too, including A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night and Only Lovers Left Alive. There's so many great ones.
There's a lot of good ones out there, including this one.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
So Jocelyn, you've worked with a ton of incredible horror directors, from Ty West to Flanagan, now Natasha. Obviously there's more, but do you have any plans to make a full feature of your own? I know you had your short. And is there any advice that any of these directors have given you that kind of like will help you tackle that project?
I have some concepts, I have some treatments like of my own, and I would love to get into producing some of those. And I think the advice usually is like, make it something that you want to work on for years. That's the classic advice, because everything does take a while, and you spend a lot of time with the property and the characters and all that. So yeah, it's just kind of find something that you're super passionate about and then go from there. And usually that means it's something personal that you have a point of view on. So stay tuned.
Awesome. Can't wait. Brady, this is kind of a spoiler, so I won't post this till after the movie comes out. But do you think that your characters, nightmares, were kind of trauma that your father put upon the family that finally caught up to you? And at the conclusion of the film, do you think with like everything that was revealed that your nightmares would kind of fade away? It would be a thing of the past with you and your brother kind of moving on?
I think with the nightmares, what's one of my favorite parts of this movie is I think you're going to leave as an audience member with the question of, were vampires real, or were they just part of Abraham's delusional mind? And that's one of my favorite parts of the story, is you really don't get a definitive answer. But I think with the ending with Max and Abraham, I think he's doing it because, he feels the need to save Rudy and also save the people from the camp. because now through everything he's been through, he gets tossed around, hit. He knows that what his father is doing now is against any normal thing, and he knows that his father is now delusional. Now he has to kind of take on this role as a parent to Rudy because of Mina. So there's a lot of just protection and getting rid of the evil, which is what he's been taught his entire life, is how to get rid of the evil in the world. And so he, in a almost comical sense, he does get rid of the evil.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just a very protective state of mind of which Max is going through, and some impulse.
Yeah, I thought that ending was very powerful, and especially too when you ran into Elsie at the end, and she kind of gave you that that nod, and it kind of like called back to just hope for a better day the next day, or you hope for the best.
Exactly. I think it's such a crazy ending that everyone now thinks that Max is becoming a psychopath who's following in the footsteps of his father when he really wasn't trying to. So I think I think the relationship between Elsie and Max is also a really nice touch in the film.
Is there anything that you want people to know about your characters going into this movie?
Yeah, I think just everybody, loves and knows Miss Mina Murray from the book, and I think it's just really fun and sad to see Mina 20 years later in this new mindset and new environment. So I think it's just a way to subvert the expectations of these characters and her marriage to Van Helsing, and it's just a very interesting take on something that we all love from the canon.
I would say come to the theaters with the expectation of seeing really heartbreaking family drama thriller. As much as this is a Dracula story, it's also this, this leader of a family leading his family down a very dark and twisted path of nothing but being wrong, and how that affects a family. And so it come with the expectation of, be ready to cry, be ready to have a little laugh, be ready to be shocked.
I love that. Yeah, I definitely cried a little bit. I teared up. I was sad, especially when your character was like disappeared. I was like, no.
Thank you,
then, yeah, of course. Well, thank you guys for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and congrats on this awesome movie.
Thank
you so much.
Bye, guys.